Ooh boy, it's been a while since I've covered this show, hasn't it? The bright side to talking about this show for my channel is that they take a while to make seasons, and it's not a 20-year-old show, and it's been short seasons from the start. Also, the fact it has some weird episode concepts makes it interesting for me to talk about. I don't even know how I'm supposed to sum up some of these episodes, so let's just jump into it, I guess. After Rick takes Morty to a planet with crystals, Morty takes a crystal with him from the planet that allows him to see all the potential ways he could die. Meanwhile, the Rick we follow dies, and by that I mean his body, because he gets himself regenerated in other multiverses. Seeing the consequences of Season 3 and him having to request to take Morty on an adventure is a great short way of showing progression and allows the plot to instantly jump into what it wants to be. Also, Summer trying to raise Jerri's cholesterol to take a hot funeral selfie is great. All of that in just the opening is a great sign. Rick thinking Morty was masturbating when driving but not wanting to acknowledge it is a great little moment.
Morty, do you have a death crystal in your pocket?
No, maybe!
You little monster, I thought you were masturbating!
You took that in stride?
You'd rather I address it?
Why would I be doing it?
Why would you steal a death crystal?
I want to die old!
Then stop driving!
Rick having to keep getting cloned in fascist realities is brilliant, even if they're shrimp.
Honestly, you're doing me a huge favor by being shrimp instead of fascists. What? God damn it, when did this shit become the default?
I love Shrimp Rick bullying Shrimp Morty. Morty going power mad is awesome just because of the creativity, which is one of the main things I enjoy about Rick and Morty. The same goes for the end fight scene, just amazing creativity, and it's what I love about this show. I like the term holophobia. I'm interested if that will ever become an official word. Hologram Rick is one of the highlights of the episode without a doubt. The wasp version of the family was probably the best moment of the entire episode. I loved the brutality.
Can you pass the acid?
Run! Run, my baby! Bonus!
The way the Death Crystal's visuals work is so confusing and must have been a nightmare to explain writing-wise for how to visualize it all. This episode I remember having to watch twice when it first came out, not because it was hard to understand or know if I liked it or not, but I couldn't tell how much I liked it because so much was always happening. I loved this episode. The Death Crystal stuff and the Clone Rick stuff is amazing, and some of my favourite plots from the show. Ooh, is this a good time for things to come? Let's see! Rick discovers someone he refuses to call a friend has used his private bathroom, and Jerri creates an app with an alien that looks like it was created and named just to sell merch. Jerri instantly jumping into developing an app with the alien with a literal message on its head not to do that is great. You know it's going to happen and they waste zero time. The ominous beeping app is the funniest bit of the whole episode to me, which is somewhat frustrating because that scene was shown before I got to watch the episode.
Mothership!
Okay, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
An ominous beeping app. You can't stay mad at a guy with this kind of talent.
Dad, you can and you have to!
The entire Rick hunt for the mystery pooper just feels incredibly Rick. Puts his entire life in danger numerous times just to find out who shit in the same toilet as him. At the same time, it isn't really a big deal or all that shocking. I know it sounds ridiculous to call this episode kinda mundane, but it sort of is. It's very typical stuff for this show, including Rick hiding his emotions but showing them to the audience at the end of the episode. The highlight of the episode is Rick calling himself lonely when his plan goes a different direction than he thought it would.
There he is! There's our guy! Congrats, Tony! Have fun with your stupid toilet that you get to use all by yourself now. Enjoy using it all by yourself while you sit there and think about how nobody wants to be around you and how you ruined it for yourself because you're a huge piece of shit. Look at you sitting there king shit on his throne of loneliness.
It's a solid episode. I like it. It's just nothing extremely funny or amazing. The most stupid heist episode of anything ever, which I don't mean in a bad way. The episode has Rick and Morty trying to double twist a double twisting heist expert. The episode starts with grave robbing. always fun. I appreciate the show not bullshitting us with a false threat, and just flat out having the main two have outfits to avoid all booby traps. We get a classic crew putting together scene which gives us a wonderful, great, the moment of, you son of a bitch, I'm in. It's a decent moment. He gets the entire crew together, just to enter a convention. Your boos mean nothing, I've seen what makes you cheer is one of my favourite lines from the show's history.
Smartest man in the universe, and a savage critic of the heisting arts.
Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. My question is, seriously?
The constant double crosses throughout the episode is great because everything is a moment where you're like, this is a setup for something, isn't it? We get the return of Mr. Poopy Butthole. He's okay here. I preferred him in Total Recall because he can never be as good as he was there because of the whole joke of him turning out to be real by the end of the episode. All of the twists with the heist is kind of exhausting to watch, but I feel like that's the point. And it does honestly work because it is still full of character on Rick's side. Morty trying to sell his movie just shows how common the stuff that happens in heist movies can be in other heist movies. The episode is extremely heavy-handed, and while it does work, this isn't an episode I come back to all that much due to the repetition throughout. It's good though, I like it. Morty gets an elephant, I mean dragon, and there's some weird incest stuff at one point. Also, Jerri tries to take a talking cat to Florida. I honestly don't have too many thoughts on the Jerri side, very straightforward, it's alright. A typical Jerri plot. The ending is fun though.
I want to see.
No, you do not.
At least now,
Get
maybe
the hell out of here.
But I've got nowhere to
Get
go.
out. Get out.
With the dragon stuff, I like how Rick bonds with Morty's dragon. It just fits with Rick almost always coming out on top in situations where he really shouldn't. Making bonding with dragons super sexual is kinda funny. The highlights of the episode is the abusive cunt that is the wizard. He's such a slut shamer. On this channel, we love sluts.
I'll take care of this at once.
You slut dragon. You slut.
Chill out, dude.
Okay, that's slut. You don't have to.
Shame on you. Shame, you slutty, why the does it feel like you're whipping me?
Guessing the fantasy magic stuff within the show is interesting to me, just because of how close sci-fi and fantasy can be with each other sometimes. It just doesn't go into it enough. The show is going to get more seasons, so hopefully we get more fantasy kind of stuff since this mostly goes into dragons. The slut-positive dragons are a pretty big part of the episode I enjoy, though the whole orgy bonding thing is questionable to me since it's incestuous. But I'm also pretty damn confident in saying that Rick was not up for it. Overall, this episode is pretty dull, which is weird considering how sexual it all is. I think it's mediocre with an occasional decent bit. So this is one of those awkward ones to sum up. Snake, time travel, and a typical Jerri B-plot of him trying to prove he can hang Christmas lights without dying. Rick's ship gets a flat tire. In space. Yes, I'm glad this was questioned. Morty getting bitten by a space snake is just amazing. The slow sliver as it goes through space with the outfit on it is just hilarious to me. That's the kind of dumb situation I find funny. Average Wednesday for me. Basically, Morty kills a snake and throws a replacement snake into the snake planet. This snake causes time travel to be a thing. Morty should learn to just stay in the freaking ship, because now we have to deal with a time travel episode, which means I'm explaining a time travel episode. They mostly parodied the Terminator franchise from what I can tell, and yeah, it's funny. If it references a lot of other stuff without me knowing, then well done, because I had fun with this episode anyway. They do clearly go into some other stuff, but I can't tell what's original and what isn't. I love seeing the time cops again and them turning to violence for everything. Huh. They're kinda like regular cops.
Oh, look at you. You a smart snake, huh? You using tools now, huh?
Those tools gonna turn into you manipulating the fabric of shit. Get over here, motherfucker!
What do you think you do?
You don't fuck
turn with time.
I love how they all have such little faith in Jerri. They all know he will somehow fuck up wearing shoes. I'm not going to go into too much detail over the time travel here, because that could honestly be its own video with how much I would want to say, and I don't want to go into it all here. I love the loop of the Ricks and Mortys at the end. That's the kind of time travel stuff I'm into, likely thanks to Futurama getting me into sci-fi stuff when I was a kid. Rick sums up how stupid being a racist is when talking about snake racism. This show gets me to say some weird shit sometimes.
All on the brink of global war over... Oh, race? How funny is that? Imagine being a racist snake. Hey, other snake, I hate you because you're the wrong color snake. Oh my god.
For ages, the crew behind Rick and Morty said they wouldn't go into time travel. They broke that rule here. I'm guessing it's because of how messy and confusing time travel can be, but that also depends on the rules of time travel you choose to follow within your own stories. I really like this episode. I wish they would have gone intentionally too confusing to follow with having lots of Ricks and Mortys, but I'm still a fan of what we got. I kinda like how I have no idea how to sum up some of these episodes, but on the other hand, what the fuck? They're on a train, right? The train is a story train. They have to take on Storylord. I did it! I summed it up even at Polly! I like how the episode starts with Rick and Morty in costumes. Good ones too. Rick is good at what he does. This episode also works as this season's episode. That's a series of random scenes and clips, like Interdimensional Cable or Morty's Mind Blowers. I'm impressed they keep finding new ways to do these types of episodes.
Air and land with wings and hands. Yes, you're a bird and a person. I'm a bird and a person and more.
Storylord draining Rick and Morty of all potential ideas is great, and I love how to get out of the trap that he put them in. They have to make their story potential terrible, trapping Storylord in what's pretty much the Bible. Then the ending is even more meta, then the after credit scene is just... My god, when do you run out of meta? I love how the train is a literal story device, and how everything on it or outside of it works towards being canon or non-canon.
Hey, get back in your egg! Don't worry, Morty, nothing out there is canon.
It can be confusing at times, but it's clearly meant to be, and it's clearly meant to be weird, and insert all the people mentioning high IQ, because, you know, this episode actually needs you to watch the TV. Even though you don't, you just kind of have to pay attention to it sometimes. While I am shit at describing the plot here, as it's not exactly a common one, I love this episode. I tend to like when stuff gets intentionally weird and confusing. I also like it when it gets meta in this way. Talking to the camera tends to be the type I'm not the fondest of, and that really wasn't here. I love this episode. Rick and Morty and Summer visit a planet, but Rick and Morty get taken over by parasites. The episode starts out with the duo escaping their first parasite takeover and trying to escape. It takes the species way too long to figure out they killed their facehuggers. It did give us some fun scenes, but nothing amazing. I love the scenes on the ship. They tend to be super well animated, and the ship battle scene is a great showcase of that. They commit some terrorist acts, not the first time they've done that.
So you did a 9/11.
Almost did a 9/11. We went with a Pearl Harbor. We're pretty classy.
They forget they left Summer there and go back, and we get a great little action scene. When they go back, Summer is actually the Empress and takes advantage of her power. Somehow Summer's dumb toothpick saved her. The reveal of Summer making the planet into an actual civilized place is oddly satisfying to see and well written within the story. There's a very uncomfortable, though funny scene of Rick and Morty's facehuggers making out in the flashback segment. I know it's The Mask, but there is a fair bit of incest this season. The stuff on the planet ends in another massacre, and a random committing suicide.
Huh, neat looking egg. Okay, well, I'm not cleaning up this.
Rick and Morty then have to lay a suicide egg, but don't because they just shit on the floor. The after credit scene with Summer's friend trying to fuck Jerri is great, and honestly the funniest part of the episode.
How old is your dad? He's obviously beekeeping age. I don't know. I think it's kind of sweet. Summer, I want to your dad.
Oh, really?
The episode wasn't that funny as a whole to me. Not as many jokes landed. I did like the song though, but the episode just generally wasn't as funny as usual. Honestly, this stuff feels very straightforward plot-wise other than the backstory stuff for Summer, which if the Lighthouse Keeper wrote this episode, Morty would have pushed them down the stairs. Luckily, I actually don't mind flashbacks. Overall, I like this episode. It's just a typical decent episode, but doesn't stand out in any particular way. There's a vat of acid in this one, bro. Things get crazy, bro. Morty judges Rick's vat of acid plan. This episode feels like this show's Scott Tenorman must die, but unlike the episode of South Park, I'm a big fan of this episode all around. While with South Park, it was mostly the ending for me. The opening is a very long scene of Rick and Morty hiding in the same fake acid vat after an exchange that goes wrong. I love how the aliens begin to question everything after the duo jump in the seemingly real acid. Normally I would complain about scenes like that, but it's honestly a fantastic scene, and somehow one I don't get tired of, despite realistically it being something I probably shouldn't care for by the time it finishes. But it's just a funny scene and great opening, plus the non-verbal communication between Rick and Morty is great.
Okay, I'd say that's pretty acidy. Drop 'em in. What are you doing? You said not the rat, the guy. Oh!
Morty then challenges Rick to make him a way to give him what's essentially a video game save point or checkpoint, but in real life, so he can live without worry. One thing that stands out about this episode to me is just how pissed off Rick gets at Morty. He's normally annoyed, but here he is furious and sounds like he's waiting to murder him.
There is nothing I cannot do.
A play-saving video game thing.
You're a piece of shit!
Just say you can't do it!
I won't!
You won't say you can't!
You, Morty!
You!
Son of a bitch!
So are you gonna...
Yes, I'm gonna f***ing do it!
Rick then gives an uncharacteristic apology to reveal he invented the checkpoint system. I love how Morty uses the system for really mundane things, like when he uses it as a checkpoint in his video game. Holy shit, this is meta. There's a building that reminds me of Moe's from The Simpsons in this episode. This needed to be pointed out for my sanity. We get a very nice long love story between Morty and this girl. No dialogue, just a long scene showing a life he has before the device is clicked again. Of course, Jerri fucks up this incredible life Morty would go on by resetting him. Then Morty fucking up the interaction and not being able to reset it due to a misclick. It's that tragic kind of humour I like from the show. Season 3 I kept on praising for its really great animation. This season is basically the same, but also this episode is just amazing at visual storytelling. We get multiple long scenes where the characters on screen don't talk. Sure, in the beginning the aliens talk, but the focus animation wise is on Rick and Morty who are unable to, so it's super impressive. We then get one of my favourite scenes in the whole show. All of the stuff that happened actually happened. Morty caused the death of countless Mortys by pressing that button.
That's right, you little bitch. It's the prestige. You prestiged
Rick,
yourself.
how many did I kill?
You tell me, Morty. Every time you reset to smell Jessica's hair, every time you relived a satisfying fart, that's how many Mortys you've incinerated, you greedy little junkie.
Oh God, even those times when I...
Especially those times.
Rick gave a seemingly throwaway line about giving a scientific explanation, or letting Morty have fun, and it comes back to haunt him. God, I love when seemingly throwaway lines are important.
Why would you do this?
My hands are clean, Morty. I gave you a choice. You could listen to me explain in great scientific detail how it all works, or you could have fun. Did you have fun, Morty?
This is all revenge for the Vat of Acid, where Morty also has to face all those he caused harm. Then Rick gets Morty to jump in the fake Vat of Acid, perfecting Rick's revenge.
Oh, God. Oh, I blame myself. Oh, what a tragedy. Oh, well, he's bones now. I guess all debts are paid.
Agreed. He's definitely dead.
Why else would the bones come up?
This episode is so well done. It establishes why I like Rick so much as a character. It was all a lesson for making fun of him. Every Rick has a vat. I love how he didn't use the reality they live in for the lesson, because it would be a waste. God, this is well done. I love this episode. Best episode of the season, easily. The family goes on an adventure together. Rick takes on a god, Barry and Jeff take on me. I mean, each other. And Morty and Summer deal with being stuck in a crashed spaceship. So the family goes on a camping trip thing without any bullshit.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
We find out here that Rick fucked a planet. Not the weirdest thing to happen in this show. The kids aren't his anyway. They're gods. The episode is unfortunately slow in the first half for me, But the second half, once the god shows up, is much better because it's also where the battle between Jerri and Beth starts. I gotta be honest, plot-wise, this one doesn't interest me that much. And it also isn't the funniest thing ever. It's not bad or unfunny, it's just not a big standout for this show, but typically an average or less than average episode of this show is still good. The best moment is Rick destroying the entire family at the end of this episode.
Your kids got high on alien mist and drove the ship into that Zeus guy's head, basically murdered him. Well, you did. I mean, not to cast the first stone, but Beth and Jerri, pretty terrible parenting on your part. Did you know Summer huffed a Kazak's array? She basically smoked the ring. Most pilots die after 3 days, and Morty, the moron, he thought the ship worked like a game controller. What in the Disney Channel is that? Maybe help him with homework next time. He's clearly crying for help.
I liked this episode. Nothing amazing, but Rick taking on a god is good. If the quality all the way through was the level of the first half of this episode, then it would be a mediocre. But I actually like this episode when it comes together as a package, even if it's not spectacular like the Vat of Acid episode. This episode is a big blob of past continuity. It feels like this was meant to be the season 3 final at times. It mostly focuses on Beth and Clone Beth and Beth trying to kill Rick. The whole thing is them doing a Star Wars. It also throws in an invisibility belt for the fun of it. The part of my brain that needs answers to everything appreciates and hates the non-answer to the clone question. I find it so odd that this episode happens in season 4, which is pretty damn episodic, and then this is super continuity focused. We get some nice scenes of Rick and sci-fi Beth chatting. The pathetic surrender to Morty is fantastic, it's just so casual.
You are under arrest for crimes against the new, improved Galactic Federation. Wait, what? How are you doing that? You're not psychic, are you? Do you have psychic powers?
Yes.
Are they strong powers? We're just looking for your mother. You can't, stop our hearts, can you?
I can.
Okay, we surrender.
Tammy is killed pretty quickly, which likely killed a lot of the fan theories around the show, but I always found Evil Morty more fascinating anyway. The Beths interacting with each other is nice. The clone stuff is the most interesting stuff from her character in the show, so I'm glad that they fleshed that out as much as they did. Phoenix Person and Rick get an epic battle together, and it's pretty bloody too. This show has some great action scenes, in terms of the gore at least, and the creativity side of things. Jerri makes for a great accidental distraction.
You are behaving rather strangely.
Me? Strange? Oh my! Well, who's normal, really? Now come here, you big hollow bone featherhead. Let me give you some of this sweet ass.
We of course get an emotional scene with Rick, which the emotional scenes have been quite non-existent this season. The stuff on the toilet episode was depressing for Rick, but I wouldn't say outright sad for me, if that makes any sense. This scene, we get a nice humanizing scene of Rick and his relationship with Beth. Normally it's Morty that humanizes him, so this is a nice change. Very solid episode, I really like it. When I first watched this season, I felt like it was better than season 3 for consistency. It still lacked a charm of the first 2 seasons. Season 3 in my eyes felt like they were trying too hard due to the show getting super popular while they were making it. This season feels like it was the writers truly figuring out what they wanted from the future of the show, and as a result some episodes can feel a bit less charming than some early season episodes. Watching this season again, I do like it a lot more than I did. I still think it lacks a certain dumb charm of the first 2 seasons, but I would much rather watch this season as a package than watch season 3 as a package. More episodes stood out upon the second watch. I found myself getting really into half of the episodes. The premiere, Snake Time Travel, Story Train, Vat of Acid, and the season final. The only episode that stood out in a not so good way was the Dragon episode. Not the weakest episode of the show to me, but one of them. The characters now all feel more hate-filled than ever. It can be a bit much not having some strong positivity to bounce off Rick being a terrible human like always, but it just seems to be the way the show is going. Morty is still the light-hearted one, he just feels less light-hearted. I know people tend to have an issue with Rick being unstoppable, but it's an episodic show. They aren't just going to completely get rid of all Ricks before the final season, so them playing into the unstoppable nature for jokes, I'm okay with. Even if he wasn't this smart and powerful, it being an episodic show means I wouldn't expect him to die forever anyway. I'm super glad I watched this season again, because I was a lot more unimpressed on the first watch, But now, I think this is a pretty damn good season. Now let's just hope for more seasons of good quality for years to come. That's all for this season and this video. Let me know your thoughts on this season in the comments, and until next time, bye I guess.